Not sure if it's soggy. Yeah. It's raining quite a lot, isn't it?
It is.
But luckily I've got my gold top jacket on. Hey, up. Right, the Himalayan 450 press bike arrived late last week. Now I intended doing some filming over the weekend. Saturday looked like the best day. The weatherman said that it wasn't going to rain until 8 o'clock at night, and then we spent 2 hours of about a 100-mile round trip riding through torrential rain from 10 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, we've got the riding in torrential rain with a pillion segment sorted out. Obviously, I'll be starting this little series with the Himalayan off by doing a detailed walk around that I need reasonably decent weather for. And I have to say, there's an awful lot to show you on the detailed walk around. I mean, you know, most channels don't go into it too much, but now I've got my hands on this bike, it's obvious that Royal Enfield have excelled themselves yet again. The quality of build is absolutely out of this world. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. Hopefully I'll have it done this week, weather dependent, otherwise it'll be next week. Now, I've been getting quite a few comments and 1 or 2 emails from people asking me to comment on a certain situation that's going on in London regarding motorcycles. So that's what I've decided to devote this video to. Now it's a podcast style video, so I'm just playing a bike ride in the background as something to focus on while you listen to me spout. For a number of years now, I've been publishing videos about the war on motorists, not just in the UK, but it's happening in other countries as well. And admittedly, for the most part, the news that I've presented to you has been in relation to motor cars rather than motorcycles, although they are caught up in this now more than ever. Now, I get a lot of complaints in the comments section from people that just come here to listen to exhaust sounds or see how to change the oil on the motorcycles and things like that. The people that are incapable of abstract thinking, that don't like me publishing that sort of content because they don't understand how that is linked to motorcycles. Well, I'm about to tell you now, because although on the surface a lot of these videos that I've published don't seem to affect motorcycles, they will eventually. Motorcycling is something of a niche mode of transport when you compare it with cars, and it often takes politicians a little while to realise that something slipped through the net, and they start coming down on motorcycles as well. I'm sorry for those people that have trouble understanding that, but, you know, I can't fix stupid. The first sign that we usually see with these policies tend to sort of surface in London. There's a lot of Labour-controlled councils in London. To some extent, when the Conservatives were in, there were pressure on them to, shall we say, restrain themselves a little bit. But as of last year, because it was certain that a Labour government was going to get in and that they would get support from Westminster, these councils started to ramp up their anti-motorist rhetoric. And about a week before the general election, where, you know, it was a dead cert that Labour were going to get in, even Sadiq Khan removed the veil of the legitimacy of electric vehicles by including them in the congestion charge. For the moment, the execution of the internal combustion engine has been signed, if you like. They don't need to pretend that electric cars are the answer anymore. They're just going to continue pummeling the motoring public, regardless of what they ride or drive, by extorting cash out of them until they quite simply can't afford to ride or drive anymore, and they've got us all walking and using public transport. Because that is what this is all about. Politicians pretend this is about climate change and an attempt to control it or mitigate it. It's nothing of the sort. It's about controlling freedom of movement. Now, the expansion of the ULEZ zones last year, it's a year now since that came into force. It all seems to have gone a little bit quiet. An independent study on air quality in London very recently revealed that it has made absolutely no difference to air pollution caused by motor vehicles in the London area, suggesting that Mr. Khan's office has made many millions of pounds in ULEZ charges, but it hasn't actually done what he said it was going to do. But for balance, I should point out that he carried out or commissioned a similar study which concluded that it's improved air pollution by 25%. I'll leave you to decide which one is the most accurate. Now, back to the subject matter of this video. This has been going on for over a year now, but as far as the media is concerned, it's small potatoes, so it's probably not come to your attention. And although this concerns Hackney Borough Council, actually other London councils are going along the same route themselves, so this is not isolated. And as usual, if you live in Manchester or Birmingham, you'll know that what starts off in London, if it's successful, if they get away with it, gradually spreads to the rest of the country. We've all got this to look forward to in the fullness of time. As with most parts of this country, motorcyclists generally don't have to pay for parking. And I've always said quite right too. I've always advocated that motorcycles, especially small to medium capacity motorcycles, are the answer to congestion and pollution, because they take up very little room on the road, so they don't cause the same amount of congestion. They're very economical in that if you're just carrying one passenger, a motorcycle is ideal, as opposed to, a large motor car which just has one occupant taking up all that road space, using all that fuel, creating all that pollution, and then taking up a big space for parking throughout the day. Motorcycles, it's a no-brainer. They're a far more efficient and environmentally friendly way for a single rider or a rider with pillion to get around. Now, the other problem with motorcycles when it comes to charging for parking is that if you buy a ticket from Pay and Display, you've got nowhere to put the ticket, and if you do just sort of tuck it in between your clocks or something like that, or stick it on the inside of your windscreen, somebody's going to take it and go and use it for their bike, aren't they? So it's never really been practical until recently, and smartphones. Because parking almost everywhere nowadays, when you're in a car, is controlled by the use of a smartphone. You pay using an app or logging onto a website and paying a fee, and it's registered for that period of parking under the registration number of your vehicle. So we've sort of lost that get out clause with motorcycles now, and councils are noticing. Now, the other thing that's come around in recent years are certain areas of London, and again we're talking about Hackney specifically here at the moment. There are residential areas where you cannot live there if you own a motor car. It's part of the conditions of you renting or taking up residence in a property. There is no parking for motor cars, therefore you have to agree when you take up residency that you are not going to have a motor car. But there's always been an exemption for motorcycles. Because, again, they don't create much pollution, they don't take an awful lot of space for parking. I mean, generally speaking, I was looking at a motorcycle parking bay in my hometown the other day. It's not much bigger than a single car parking space, yet you can get easily 4, maybe even 5 motorcycles into that space. Put simply, they put nowhere near the same strain on parking resources that cars do. But Hackney Council has now decided this. Motorcycles will have to pay the same parking charges that cars have to pay. in their parking bays around the borough itself. So, yeah, a 50cc moped will have to pay exactly the same amount to park as a car or a small van. And regarding these no motor car residency zones, it is now going to include motorcycles. So either people are going to have to move, get rid of the motorcycles, or they're going to have to buy a yearly pass to allow them to park there, which again will cost the same amount as a car or a small van. Now, the residency parking permits for motorcyclists that live in these special residential areas are mooted to cost just over £1,400 a year. Now, they're slipping this in stealthily so people will swallow it. The first year you can get the permit free. The second year you pay half price for the permit. But then on the third year you pay full price, which is the same as a car, just over £1,400 a year. But the real choker are the proposed parking fees for, let's say you ride into London to park up to do a bit of shopping, or you have to ride into London because you work there and you need to leave the bike parked up for 8 hours while you do your tour of duty at work. They're going to be charging £6 an hour, and somebody mooted that it's going to cost them £60 a day, but that doesn't quite add up if you're working an 8-hour shift, but it's not going to be far off. I mean, do the maths. How much would it cost you just to park your motorcycle to go to work per month? That is an awful lot of money. In fact, I think it's probably more than some people earn, to be quite honest. Especially once you consider what's left of your wages once you've paid your national insurance and your income tax. Fuel, insurance, the list goes on. It's just not doable for most people. And in one particular article that I read on the subject, I'll leave some links in the video description down below, the Hackney Council gloated that this will remove up to 80% of motorcycles from their roads. Just think about that. If they get away with it, it's going to spread everywhere. This week it's Hackney Council. Next week it's all the other Labour-controlled councils in London. The week after, Birmingham, Manchester, Sheffield, Hull. Everywhere. This is going to spread everywhere. And get this, even the Green Party, who are the most nonsensical people on the face of this earth, have lambasted the Hackney Borough Council because even they recognise that motorcycles are cheap, reliable, convenient transport that don't put much pressure on the environment and don't take up much space for parking. Even the Greens can see it. But having said that, the Green Party's main concern is the environment. So, of course, they're going to see the folly in, this kind of action against motorcycles. This is not about climate change, despite what places like the Hackney Borough Council tell us it's about. It's about control. It's about controlling our freedom to move around. And it's about using motorists as cash cows whilst they realise that dream. The thing is, when all these motor vehicles have gone, they're still going to want that revenue. So they're going to find some other way of making us pay up for something. I don't know what, but, these socialist councils are very imaginative in the ways they extort cash from us. Perhaps pay per mile walking. And cycling. It sounds ridiculous, but I wouldn't discount it, not just yet. Right, as I said, this is by no means a comprehensive account of what is going on. I'm going to include some links in the video description down below because this subject is huge. It's been going on for quite some time and it's now reaching the point where these measures are being implemented. You need to be aware of it because it is going to affect you sooner rather than later. Now, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this and my other videos, and in doing so helping to support this channel. I really do appreciate it. I'd also appreciate it if you would leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. Make sure that your notifications are enabled. That way YouTube will let you know whenever I upload a new video. There are other ways you can support me via the Patreon page or the Super Thanks button. Much appreciated. It's as I've said in the past, I consider that to be a sort of a tipping jar. If you want to show your appreciation, you can. If you don't, there's no need to. I am of course going to be back on Friday, so until then please ride safely while you can, and I'll see you soon.